Hi everybody, welcome back for another edition of Virtual Yoga. And today we're doing a yin yoga practice, another stretching practice. A few things to grab before we get started. A hand towel, always a useful prop. I'll be throwing out a few ways to use these. Yoga blocks or pillows always work too. If you got your dog or your cat with you, let them join, right? They're always in the frame, so it doesn't matter. Yoga mat if you got it, beach towel if not, or just lay on the carpet. Honestly, some people can just do it on a hardwood floor and they're totally fine. But whatever you need, go ahead and grab it before we get started. You're up. Cats are being bad right now. Come here, dude.
Just sleep.
Alright, so why don't we go ahead and begin this? We'll start off in a comfortable position. A position I might recommend if you are close to a wall. Rest your feet up the wall and just lay on your back. This is a great way to slow down the body and prepare it for what we're doing. Our belly breathing technique, that's going to help too. But if you have a wall, I would highly recommend using it because there's a few poses that I might throw in today that involve the wall. Although I'll make it work for everybody. So if you don't have one, no worries. Just go ahead and lay down. And close your eyes. Nothing to see at this point, just more to feel and pay attention to. Focus on your breath. Breathe low in your belly, low in your diaphragm. And if you'd like to double check if you're doing this correctly, place a hand on your stomach below the belly button. You'll feel the stomach expand. When you take an inhale, it will contract when you take an exhale. And that's belly breathing. It's the breathing technique that I recommend for our practice because it's a slower paced practice and we want to slow the body down. Breathing low in your diaphragm will help that. Slows the heart down, slows the nervous system down. It slows the mind down as well. What we're doing today, again, a yin yoga practice. It's a very gentle and passive style of yoga where you're holding slow static postures for an extended period of time to stretch the body. But it's not just about stretching our muscles. We'll stretch muscle, but what we're really targeting is connective tissue, our deeper tissue, what holds the muscles, the bones, and the organs in place and in line. Really important thing to work. A lot of us are just unfamiliar with how to do it. How we do it, though, is by holding poses for a while. And we're talking roughly 4 to 5 minutes with each individual pose. This can be a long time. I understand that. So if your better judgment leads you out of something early, let's say 2 or 3 minutes into pose, you feel like you've had enough, you want to make your way out, it's fine. You don't have to hold the pose the entire time. But if you feel comfortable and you want to hold the pose the entire time, maybe a little longer, it's up to you. My advice to you is to let experience be your guide. Let your body tell you what you need to do. Excuse me. Allergies, right? But again, before we officially get started, if you need help during the hour, always feel free to type in questions, comments on our Facebook Live thread. And my better half, my wife, is on standby, ready to read all those questions out to me. So again, if you need any help, I am more than happy to help you out. Don't be shy. Don't hesitate to ask. Every time we do a practice, sometimes you might have some questions that I might not answer just, intuitively. But again, if you need some help, let me know. I'll help you out. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and if you are ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes. And we're going to start our practice off loosening up the hips and spine. If you're laying down, just stay where you are, bring your knees up to the chest, cradle the legs. If you have your feet up the wall, slide your legs down the wall, bring your knees to your chest. Same deal, cradling the legs, rocking up and down, side to side. If you're near a wall, though, you might have to scoot away a little bit from it. Right? That happens. Crack your back if you can. Move around however you need to. Today I was thinking about doing a half hips and half spine series. Just kind of getting the best of all worlds. I think the last time we got together it was a hip series. The time before that was a spine series. So I thought today we might as well just do a little bit of both. Still some forward bends and back bends. However, if you decide that you would rather do more of one than the other, like you would rather do more work for your spine, or you'd rather do more work for your hips, I can make it work all ways. I'll throw out options and modifications for all of these. So again, if you do want to specialize more in one, the choices will be there for you. Or if you want to do both, then follow along and we'll wing it, see how it goes. But let's actually start this off with a twist pose, reclining twist. If you're already there laying down, you just stay there. Maybe we'll coordinate direction, though. We'll lay on our backs, bring the knees up to the chest, take your legs over to the left, lay them on the floor. This is the pose. So when you're doing a twist going left, it's lower right side of your back, your obliques, outside of the right body. Maybe the outside of your right leg, your IT band might feel it. Sometimes your glutes, your butt muscles might feel this as well. But if you're in this twist and you're really struggling to get your knees together or struggling to get your legs to the floor, use a block. Seriously, put a block in between your knees or under the bottom leg. Maybe a pillow, again, if you happen to have one. But you might not need it, so if you don't worry about it. But again, with the twist here, lower right side of the body. A lot of ways to adjust this, though. If you want to throw out a bonus here for the upper body, arms out to the T. It's always a nice chest and shoulder over here, girl. So if you're twisting to the left like I am, it's inside of the right shoulder getting the opener. A lot of times, I actually will take one of my hands and lay it on my leg. I like to have this little bit of dead weight here. Sometimes it can increase the stretch for me and allow me to relax a little bit more. But again, that's up to you. Some people will just have arms way out to the T. It's fine. Another thing you can do is arms above the head. Arms above the head will stretch more of your obliques, your side body. You might run into your triceps, get a little stretch here too. If you want to stretch your neck, look away from your legs. So legs going left, you would look right. That would stretch your neck a little bit. Cervical's fine. But I'd like to get a little bit more chest and shoulder opener today. I have my arms out to the T, so what I'm going to do is look with my legs. My legs are going left, so I'm turning my head left, getting a little bit more of that right chest and shoulder opener. Feel free to do just one of these or all of them. If you'd say, I'd like to do a little bit of, turn my head away, turn my head with the legs, arms above, arms out to the side. That's fine, right? Whatever your body's calling for, do that. And I don't know what that is for you. I'm perfectly comfortable with admitting I don't know what your body wants, but you do. So listen to it. Last thing to adjust if you need it, it's going to be the legs. Keeping your knees stacked is usually enough, but if you need more, take your top leg over bottom leg. If you're going left, it would be the right leg over the left. The more this leg crosses over, the deeper your pelvis is going to rotate into it. It's going to increase the intensity. It might be okay, right? If you still feel this broad side body stretch and you can relax and let your muscles soften, by all means, take this leg over. But if you start taking it over and you can't relax anymore, or it's more of a localized straining pain right here in the back of your hips, it's going to be the back right hip, the SI joint, you're going too far, right? Keep your knees stacked. You are going to be better off here. Less is more in this practice, right? We don't want to go too far. I'd rather you under stretch than over. And that's why I will give you the scale of stretching early in almost every practice I teach. Between 1 and 10, if 10 is your deepest stretch, go for 6 and 7 because you're less likely to overstretch there, more likely to relax, get a nice moderate stretch. It's not too much, it's not too little, but it's just right. And we'll hang here for another minute. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and if you're ready, There's your time. Slowly unwind from your twist. That could be you laying on your back. That could be you laying on your side, right? The side that you just went to. Up to you. Might feel nice to even cradle your legs. Or just lay flat and resist the urge to move. Up to you. You got a minute to do whatever you need. But try to feel the difference between the two sides, right? We've only twisted one way. I'm sure it feels different than the other. Other side, if you're ready. Whatever side you're on, but if you're on the same page as me, you're going right now. And if you're twisting to the right, laying on the back, legs going to the right, it's lower left side of the back, the obliques on the left side. Maybe the outside of your left leg feels it, your IT band, sometimes your glutes will feel too. Those are sort of extra. The intention really is to feel the side of the back, left side. The two sides are different. If you get here and notice that, it is not abnormal. Maybe on this side you need to use a block. You got to put a block in between your knees. Maybe you got to put it under the bottom leg. Maybe you have to do both. You know, if you have one, use one. Or, you know, again, if you need to go up and grab one, go ahead. You got some time. We're going to be in these poses for like 4 or 5 minutes, so you got time to run up, get a prop, come back. But we do want to stretch both sides. Excuse me, Liddy, touching your balls. With this in mind, again, does not have to be aligned the same way. It just means stretch both sides. So if you had arms out to the T, you got the chest and shoulder opener stretch, I'd recommend it here. It's going to be the inside of the left shoulder now, getting this particular opener. But if you didn't do that, you had arms above the head, more oblique and side body stretch, get the triceps there too. Again, whatever you did. If that was a combination of both these, just use your internal clock, feel it out as to when you need to move. That's going to apply for the neck too. To stretch the neck, look away from your legs. So legs going right, you would look left. But to stretch more chest and shoulder, look with your legs. So again, legs are going right, look right, it's going to open up that left chest and shoulder a little bit more. So whatever you did on the other side, do your best to do here. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we do want to get the stretch. That's the most important thing. Last thing to adjust, though, will be your legs. Keeping the knees stacked is often going to be enough, but if it's not, you need more. Take your top leg over the bottom leg. That'd be the left leg, excuse me, Woody, over the right. The more this left leg crosses over, the deeper your pelvis will rotate into it, right? There's a deeper exchange here. Might be all right. Again, if you can relax and you feel the broad side body stretch, by all means, go for it. But if you can no longer relax, muscles are flexing, they're engaging, or it's a localized straining pain and now the back left hip, you're going too far, right? Please, please, please listen to your body. It will always tell you those warning signs. But the key is to recognize what exactly it is. So if you're feeling a broad stretch, basically every time you feel that, it's going to be therapeutic for you. But if it's ever localized around a joint, like back of the hip, the knee, any joint like that, you are overdoing something, and that's your body saying, stop it, right? A lot of us will neglect that because, you know, I hear this expression a lot, no pain, no gain, right? Personally, it's like my least favorite expression when I hear people exercising. No pain, no gain. Pain is weakness leaving the body. What does that even mean? Right? Let's think about it critically. What pain is it? Is it tension? A broad stretch? Is it localized straining? Right? Knowing the difference between those two can save you from hurting yourself. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths. When you're ready, there's time. Slowly unwind from your twist. Either laying on your back, laying on your side. You can bring your knees to the chest, or you can lay flat. You do whatever you need. Just take a moment. Few deep breaths, and when you're ready, you can go ahead and make your way to a comfortable seated position. We're going to work into our inner thighs next. Maybe the back if you want to do a forward bend. Again, that's going to be 100% up to you. So if you want to do back work, it's there. If not, hip work would be an option too. First option I'm showing is butterfly pose. Soles of the feet together in front of you. You're falling and rounding in the pose best you can. Don't worry about getting the head to the feet. It's not the point of the stretch. The point is to feel your inner thighs and to feel your back. Stretching nice and broad stretches there. Anything localized in this pose, usually it's around the knees or somewhere in the hips, back of the hips, or even the outside. If it's localized like that, try a different pose. Dragonfly is usually going to be a safe bet for you, where you spread out your legs and you lean forward. You get the inner thighs, you get your back, get a bonus hamstring stretch. We are going to stretch those next, but it might be worth it. Some people are really tight in their hamstrings, and they can't get enough of it. Up to you. But again, both of these are inner thighs and back. If you would like more for your hips, reclining butterfly is always fair game. So you got the soles of the feet together in front of you, and you're laying on your back, right? You're just letting gravity do all the work for your inner thighs, keeping your pelvis and your sacrum level with the floor. It's up to you. For some people, again, with hip issues, like your hip might be going out of alignment, like it's tilting too far forward with an anterior tilt or a posterior tilt, it's backwards, that's probably going to be worth it for you, just to kind of get that balanced again. Now, the alignment of it with the actual shape, it's probably going to be different, right? Two sides of the body are always different with asymmetrical features with your bones, right? So you'd never be perfectly symmetrical on that. But that's okay. You can still find balance without being symmetrical. Those are two different things. So go ahead and settle in, whichever one you're going to do. You know, sometimes you try a pose out and you're realizing, you know what, this isn't really the best one for me today. I was feeling it more in a dragonfly pose. So I'm going to do this just because my body's saying I really need this particular pose. It's always worth trying all of these different options. And I suggest that just so you can know a few different ways to stretch every target area. When it comes to our legs, there are 4 main target areas we're going to work into. Inner thighs, the hamstrings, the back of your legs, the IT bands are the outside, and your quads, your upper thighs, right? Those are the 4 things that we're actually going to work here in practice. And we can really simplify that, right? But with all of these areas, I would recommend learning at least 2 or 3 different ways. Just so, if God forbid you go to your favorite pose, that one pose you always do because it doesn't feel like a yoga practice without it, if you get there and it's not working, you don't have to just skip the area. You can say, okay, well, you know, butterfly pose isn't working, but I know another one. I know dragonfly will work for me. Or maybe I'll try a reclining butterfly. So again, don't be afraid to experiment because it's the only way you're ever going to learn in this practice. And really, honestly, it's the best way to learn anything. Through first-hand experience, just trying it out, see if it works. There is no wasted effort in that. Right? So please don't be afraid to do it. It's one of those things that every now and then as a teacher I can see people who are very stuck in their ways. And they only want to do one pose. And I mean, it's fine. Right? It's fine again to have that favorite pose. But still, knowing a few different ways, you can constantly change your routine. You can constantly change it up and give yourself a unique practice every single time you do it, instead of just doing the same routine over and over and over and over again. take a few deep breaths, and if you're ready, there's your time. If you're in a forward bend, use your hands. Slowly push your way out, lean back, and lay down. If you are already laying down, you are already where I want you. Just bring the knees together or extend your legs out one at a time. But take a moment, again, for yourself, just to feel the rebound and how different your body feels after holding that pose. Hamstrings come up next. We'll do both at the same time with a caterpillar pose. And caterpillar pose, you'll be up in a seated position with both legs out in front of you, and you lean forward into it. The intention is to feel your back stretch and the back of your legs. Again, this is the hamstrings, back upper half from glutes to knee here, right? If you need something to grab onto, shins are always there. Ankles, maybe around the feet, around the toes, if you can grab them. It's not a competition, so if you can't touch your toes, don't worry about it, right? That's not the point. But if you can touch your toes, feel free. You can get a bonus calf and Achilles tendon stretch. That's back of the shin, back of the heel. That is extra right here. Not the intention. The intention, right, back of the legs and back. So it's up to you. Right? Some people they'll just stretch it because they're already in the area. A lot of times I will because I'm really tight in my calves and my hamstrings, right? Those are two areas I often will stretch. But again, it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you're getting the stretch that you need. This is where a strap or a towel, if you have a Pilates ring, those will work too, just as fine. You can take the prop, loop it over your feet, and use this for leverage to help pull you forward. But try not to pull back so much, because if you start pulling back like this, you're losing the forward bend. That's half the reason why you're doing it. It's to stretch your back out. And if we're only stretching the hamstrings, then we're missing on half of the posture. But if you're doing this forward bend and you don't feel a broad back stretch, some people don't. They feel it more. Again, SI joints, back of the hips. You could always lay on your back and do this. This is definitely another place I'd recommend using like a hand towel or whatever you got. But you can loop it over your feet and pull back this way. You can get a pure hamstring stretch without having to bend forward. But again, if you can bend forward, I'd recommend it because I want you to work your spine. It's so important to do that. Because of all the sitting that we do a lot of sitting. Like sometimes 16 hours of your day involves you sitting down. That's a lot. Right? That's a lot for the spine. So we have to have methods of stretching out the back. Otherwise, it's going to suffer, and we don't want that. One of the whole purposes of doing yoga is to alleviate suffering. And this is a philosophical idea, but it's also physical, right? It's not just an emotional thing or a mental thing to alleviate your mental struggles. It's part of it. But the other part is the physical body. Because if the physical body is suffering, the mind's going to suffer, and vice versa, right? So you have to treat both, really. I do want to give one more modification before I go on too far of a rant here that's off topic. If you're really tight in hamstrings, and this is a struggle to round in, you can always let your knees bend. No rule that says you have to lock the knees and put them on the ground. If your knees are bent like this, you can round more into the pose, stretch your back out a little bit more, right? There's more forward bending here. It's up to you. If you're pretty bendy, you're probably not going to need to bend your knees at all. But again, everybody's different. Everybody experiences these things differently. But the pain itself, it's what exactly it is doesn't change for everybody other than the feeling of it. But the pains that we focus on primarily in yoga are tension and compression. Tension is a broad stretch. Anytime you feel it, you can wave your hand to it. Say, yeah, this whole thing right now, the back side of my body is all stretching. That is therapeutic. It's what you can change. And the more you do it, the more flexible you become, the more you start working through it. But eventually you start hitting compression, where two parts of your body, bones, run into each other. It represents the ultimate range of motion. And anytime you feel bones squeeze into each other, it's pretty easy to feel. You'll take one finger and say it's like this pinching. it feels like it's squeezing, it's coming together. I can't go anymore. There's nothing stretching. Another sign of compression is when two parts of the body hit each other. The most common one in yoga is the stomach running into the legs, right? You can't get past that. That's the full range. And knowing these limitations of the skeleton, of the body, that's what saves you, right, from injuring yourself. Because again, coming back to this idea of no pain, no gain. Well, what does that mean, right? If we're looking for a therapeutic pain, tension is going to be it the majority of the time. Compression, there are some cases where it can be very therapeutic, but there are also a lot of cases where it actually degenerates your joints. It's most often during strengthening, though, when degeneration takes place when you're compressing bones. Because think about this. Bones squeezing together in a slow static posture doesn't cause much damage. It's this. Rhythm and repetition. Hitting those bones, smashing them into each other over and over, they'll degenerate. The tissues around them degenerate. So that is definitely an example of when compression is not therapeutic. But again, these are things that you'll experience and you'll feel it as you go along. And you'll learn more about yourself as you do it. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there's your time. Use your hands, slowly pushing yourself out. Lean back, lay down, take your time. Well, that might feel like a long way away. So you take your time out here. Relax for a moment. When you're ready, go ahead and make your way for a comfortable seated position. We're going to stretch our IT bands next. Iliotibial band runs from ilium to tibia, glutes to knee on the outside of your leg. But if there's any knee pain that's localized or hip pain, stop doing what you're doing, listen up to the modifications, or if you're just not quite sure, even if you've tried all the modifications, again, type in those questions. I'm more than happy to answer them because I don't want to waste your time. Right? I want you to get the best stretch possible. I did say I was going to suggest using the wall, but if you don't have a wall, don't worry about it. But I did want to throw out this option because it's one of my personal favorite poses. Eye of the needle up the wall is what it's called. So you got your 1 foot up the wall. You got one leg crossing over here. Let's say it's the right leg that's crossing, if you want to be on the same page as me. So I'm crossing my right leg over. I got my right ankle just a bit below the left knee. It's the outside right here. Getting it. But there are two ways to do it. The first one is taking your foot that's against the wall, sliding that down. A lot of times that's going to increase as much as you need. If that doesn't help, though, scoot in closer. A lot of times that's going to solve the issue, too. You just need to get closer to have more leverage. So, again, up to you if you want to try that particular pose. If you got a wall, I definitely recommend it. If you don't, though, you could always do a swan pose, pigeon. That's what I was thinking about doing for myself today. It's the outside of your front leg. I'll show you from a few different angles here. But the first bit of this, again, outside of the front leg, your front leg shin could be parallel, right, with the top of your mat. Doesn't have to be, though. Some people would prefer to bend their knee and bring their foot in towards their groin. Whatever's going to protect your hip and knee, that is what you need to do. So go ahead and experiment with that. Lean forward, hands, elbows, head on the block, head on the floor, if you can get there. Back leg can be adjusted too. Hey, girl. So back leg can either be straight behind you, or you can bring the back leg around you to the side. Hey, what are you doing? What's up? You show everybody how you stretch? Thank you. She's very good at doing her yoga. Okay, so with the back leg coming around, right, to the side, It allows more external rotation of your front leg. Let me show you what exactly that means here. So again, from the side view, back leg straight. You see how my front hip comes up off the floor? This is okay, right? If the hip comes up but you still feel this broad stretch, it's fine. But if it's really uncomfortable or it's knee or hip pain, bring that back leg around you, and all of a sudden you see how this hip is laying on the floor, right? There's more external rotation. My hip is turning out more. It's really up to you, right? Some people will feel it better with the back leg straight. Some people with the back leg brought around. Maybe both. You know, for me, I can feel it both ways, but a lot of times it just depends on the day. You know, some days it just feels better, have the back leg straight or the back leg coming around. Not a better or worse to it. It's just different, right? Always reminding yourself of that. It's not better to look a certain way in your pose. What matters is, what does it feel like when you do it? You know, does it feel objectively better to have your back leg straight? Does it feel better to have it around? Does it feel better to not do this pose? Whatever it takes, right? We don't care about aesthetics. We don't care about what we look like because everybody's going to do it differently. Every single person will do a yoga practice differently. And not just yoga, every form of exercise. So don't judge yourself off of what you look like in your practice. It's the worst thing that you can do to yourself physically and mentally. You know, especially if and I get why people do it. You're a new student. You come into a yoga practice and you think to yourself, well, I should be looking like the person next to me, or I should be looking like the instructor, right? They obviously know what they're doing, so you try to mimic that. Maybe your body can handle it and you're fine, but maybe you're one of the people whose body can't handle that. You try it out, you hurt your knee, you blow out your knee, you blow out your shoulder, and then you're like, well, why'd that happen? Well, maybe it's because we didn't have the range of motion. We don't have the skeleton to do it. But most people don't know that. Again, unless you've been in some medical course, like if you're a doctor or a nurse or if you're a physical therapist, right, you've obviously gone through that. But the average person doesn't really understand that skeletons are not the same. Right? We're all different that way. So we're going to move differently. We're going to do our yoga differently. If you're ready, there's time for you. Real slow, making your way on out of the pose. That might just be kind of rolling out like so if you're in a swan pose. If you got your feet up the wall, uncross, keep them there. Usually that's going to feel nice too. Just kind of keep the feet up and elevated to change blood pressure. Hey, lay down with your kitty if you got one. Hey boy. He's quite a hider, but he's certainly a snugger. Right? You feel all right? If you are ready. And again, no rush and no hurry. But you can go ahead and make your way for the other side. Hey, what you doing? You gonna help everybody do the other? Okay. So if you're using the wall and you're on the same page as me, thank you. It is now right foot up the wall with the left leg crossing over. So again, right foot up, if you're here. Left leg, thank you, crosses over. It's the outside of the left leg that's going to get the stretch, right? Broad stretch. Any knee pain or any hip pain, just let me know or try modifying. Again, usually, slight adjustment here and there can really help you out. But to increase it, start with the foot up the wall. Thank you. If you need to increase, slide foot down. If that doesn't help, scoot in closer. A lot of times that's really all you need. Thank you so much. You're being very nice right now. We're going to do the swan pose as well if you don't want to use the wall, or if you don't have a wall, right? That's fine. Thank you so much. So with the swan pose, pigeon, remember it's the outside of your front leg here. So you'll have the outside of the leg on the floor. You can have your shin parallel with the top of the mat. Thanks for helping me demonstrate. If that does not help or it doesn't work for you, you could always take this leg, the front one, bend the knee, excuse me, buddy, thank you so much, and have that close towards the groin. It's still the outside of the front leg getting the stretch. But you lean in, hands, elbows, head on the block, head on the floor if you can get there. Back leg could be straight behind you if you'd like to, or you can bring the back leg around you to the side. Right? We had mentioned when the back leg comes around, there's more external rotation of your front hip so that the hip can lay on the floor. A lot of times it's going to increase the stretch. Sometimes it decreases, just depends on your hips, really. There's a lot of play in this, so feel free to modify, feel free to experiment, because again, you never really know until you try it out. Hey, come on. Thanks so much. So again, outside of the leg, getting the stretch. IT band can be a really tough area to get into. A lot of people are going to struggle finding a comfortable IT band stretch. And again, just because of the variations amongst us with our hips, with our femurs, right? There's so much at play when it comes to the skeleton. So if you're one of those people who are just saying, you know, it's not working, just let me know. Or if you have another pose, thank you, in the back of your mind, go for that one too. Right? Some people will do other things. Like we've done a couple of them in this practice. We've done shoelace poses. I think we've done square poses. We've done just the regular eye of needles. There's at least like 5 different things we've done here. You never know what's going to work. And also, aside from the fact that the bones are different here, the IT band itself is not a muscle. So it can feel a little bit different stretching this because it's connective tissue. And it's so important for us to work our connective tissues. Now, when we're stretching like our inner thighs and our hamstrings, there's connective tissues there. They're just around the muscles. Right? That's what's really holding them in. But what you're stretching right now is just a really big band of connective tissue. And what happens to our tissues, the connective tissues, as we age and if we stop moving, they start drying up. And when they dry up, the layers of them, they get stuck together. So when they're stuck together, it's really difficult to move. That's when you start feeling stiff. But when we exercise, we start creating hyaluronic acid. It's a buzzword right now, but essentially it's the lubricant of your fascia. And what it does is it lubricates the fascia so that it can break those layers up that are stuck together and get them gliding again. That's how you get that smooth movement. Right? That's how you start feeling flexible. It's getting the connective tissues loose and moving again. So it's one of the major reasons why we do this, if not like, again, one of the top 3, maybe top reason why we do this. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and if you're ready, there's time. Path of least resistance out of your pose, whatever you're in. If you're in a swan pose, it's going to be rolling out, laying on your back or your side stomach. Get your feet up the wall, uncross, keep them there. Might be fine. Just take a minute for yourself. We have 2 more things left to do. We have to stretch our quads. We have to do a back bend. I was thinking about doing the quads one side at a time with our practice today. The reason why I enjoy doing it one side at a time is for those who have knee issues. Right? If you have knee issues and I try to throw you into a pose that involves both quads at the same time, it could be really difficult for you. So again, I'd rather just break it up and do one at a time. Unless you want to do both sides for like 10 minutes. Not abnormal, actually. Some people will do that. I won't do that to you today. But the first option for our quads, right, the upper thighs. The half bows is always a good go-to. You lay on your stomach, grab onto the foot and pull it. And the more you pull, the more you get. Muscular effort is required with this pose. You actually have to grab something. If you don't, and you're just kind of forcing it like this with muscular effort, you're not stretching your quads, you're flexing your hamstrings, your big leg muscles on the back, right? This is going to cause some issues if you're just not grabbing it. You have to grab it so that that muscle can relax, or muscles, I should say, and then you pull. If you can't grab your foot, that's where a towel or a strap or a Pilates ring come into play. Just loop it over and pull on that. Or you could do a half saddle pose. Depends on, again, how the knees feel. But this pose, you got one leg bent, top of the bent leg here, that's getting the stretch. And if you need to increase it, you just keep going back. Right? There's some back bends going on here. So starting with the hands usually is enough. But if you need more, elbows are next. You could lay on your back. This is the full range. Again, I'm teaching, I like to make sure I'm upright here. I could lay here if I totally wanted to. But if I'm being honest, I feel the stretch right here. With myself, my arms up, elbows down, I still feel the quad stretch going on. That's really all that matters, right? Coming back to that scale of stretching, I'm feeling probably like a 5 or 6 right now. So I'm like just on that cusp of, yeah, it's totally fine. But after a while, once your body loosens up, you'll probably start losing that stretch. And that scale will probably go down to about like a 3 or a 4 or somewhere in there. And that's your sign of, okay, it's time for me to increase this. Maybe it's only like an inch or two of going a little bit deeper into it. Maybe not, though. It might be a drastic difference where instead of having your elbows down, you're laying all the way on your back. Just feel it out. Always listening to what your body's telling you. Again, this is something as a yoga teacher or just as a person in general, I can't stress that enough. It's listening to what your body's telling you. Because if you're not listening, all you're doing to yourself is a disservice. You know, most people, they won't listen to their body, and then they hurt themselves, and it's already too late, right? That injury is already there. But if you're very aware and hypersensitive of what's going on within you, you can prevent a lot of those injuries because you can sense when something starts feeling a little bit off. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's exactly how you develop the relationship with your body, which again, most people don't have until it's too late. So get a head start on that. And if anybody tells you that it is selfish to want that, don't listen to them. They are probably the kind of person who's telling you right now that it's weird to be doing yoga. I think every now and then I'll have somebody say, like, I think it's weird to do yoga every day. Like, it's only weird to you because you don't do it, right? So I don't mean to be, like, judgmental towards people who don't exercise, but do you really think you should be taking advice of exercise from someone who doesn't exercise? Right? Just being smart. If you're ready, it's time. Real slow, take your path of least resistance out. If you're in a half bow, it's letting you go. If you're in a half saddle like this, you're going to roll away from that leg. Let it out, move it around, shake it off a little. And just take that minute to yourself. Other side, if you're ready. Whatever side you're on, whatever pose you're in, I only threw out 2 of them. Half bow and half saddle. Half bow, you're on your stomach, grabbing your foot and you're pulling. The more you pull, the more you get. Muscular effort's going to be required with this one. If you can't grab it, use a strap or a towel or ring. Loop it over that ankle. Pull on the prop, right? You got to get the knee to bend there. Or half saddle pose. You have your knee bent. It is the top of the bent leg getting the stretch nice and broad. Any pain in the knees, inside, outside, you're overbending. So please bail out the back because I don't want you to hurt yourself. Start with the hands, elbows are next. Laying on your back is full range. It's up to you as to how far you go. I'm thinking probably next week, since a lot of you are starting to become regulars now, I'll throw out more modifications for all of these poses. For every pose we do, I'll throw out another subtle adjustment here. And a lot of times, it just comes to a pelvic tilt some way. Like, do I tilt it backward? Do I tilt it forward? Do I tilt it to a side? Or do I do a combination of those things? Again, I don't want to overwhelm everybody with too much right off the bat, but those who are loyal and have been watching this since the start of it, you've been doing this practice for over 2 weeks now, so you're probably ready for a few new minor adjustments. So, I'll make sure I throw those in for the next few practices, and I'll know that tomorrow. That's when I'm going to come up with next week's schedule. So stay tuned for the next week's schedule. It's probably going to be the same as this week, last week. Just keep an eye out for it. Breathe. Here, right? Deep inhale, deep exhale. Sink into the pose, letting your muscles soften. Right? We always want to let the muscles yield to any of our stretches that we do here. But it's only in yin yoga where you're going to find that. In any other form of exercise, including other styles of yoga, you're not going to really soften the muscles. You're going to actually flex them. You're going to engage them. But that's for strengthening, right? When you're stretching, it's about relaxing it. And that's so important for us to be able to distinguish the difference between this type of practice and any other form of practice we do. This is not better. It's not worse than strengthening. It is different. It is really the complement to strengthening. Because there's only 2 things you can do with your body. It's either you strengthen it or you stretch it. So do both, right? Do both. Strengthen as much as you can. Stretch as much as you can. Your body will thank you for it. You do not have to take my word for that. You don't have to just believe me blindly on that. That is something you can feel just right away. And not only, again, do you physically feel better, but that's going to work emotionally to you as well. They're all hand in hand. Body and mind are tied together. Take a few deep breaths, and if you're ready, here's your time. Real slow, roll away from that leg or let it go if you're in half bow. Take a moment to yourself. Lay down if you need to. Cradle legs. Maybe a child's pose feels nice. It's up to you. One more pose left. We have to do a back bend, and then that's going to be it. We're intentionally compressing the bones, so we are planning on squeezing vertebrae together. This is where it can be therapeutic for you. But 2 options I can give you are Sphinx pose and supported bridge. Sphinx pose, you're laying on your stomach. You're propping up onto your forearms and your elbows. This is the pose, right? It's not a stretch or anything. It's dull, gentle pressure right here. Lower back, that's all it should be. Anything that's sharp, you lower down, right? Don't push through the sharpness. It's not therapeutic. You're going to hurt yourself. A lot of times that's you compressing a nerve or an artery. I don't want you to do that because that could cause degeneration of the nerve, could cause nerve damage, could impinge blood flow, right? Those are very bad things for you. So again, sharpness, never good. Dull, good to go. But you could always do a supported bridge. Hey, girl. That's up, dog. See? She's doing it, too. You could use a block if you'd like to, or some pillows if you don't have them. Thank you so much. Supported bridge. You put it under your back, and you lay on it. You could have your knees bent and feet on the floor, or slide your legs out. This is going to be the deeper variation of this pose. If you're doing a supported bridge, sliding the legs out is deeper because there's a deeper arc in the back. Bless you so much. I know, she's got allergies too. Up to you. She's really excited. So you can either lay it flat, the block. You can flip it up. You could put it vertical. Could use 2 blocks. I personally won't do that because I do not have a deep back bend. For me, Sphinx pose is usually what I'll go to. Hey. Don't lick my face. Thank you so much. Not on camera. Right, not on camera. So, if you're doing your Sphinx pose, if you want modifications here, one of the first things I suggest is just lifting your feet up off the floor. Right? It tilts your pelvis, your sacrum to go forward, increases your back bend. But right now, when I'm doing this, I'm starting to feel sharp pain in my back. So I know, don't do it. I also start feeling my quad spasm. Right? That's my body saying, hey, I'm going too far because they're not relaxing anymore. And the quads, they really don't have anything to do with this pose. Right? Quads are my upper thighs. So if I'm noticing something like that's happening, I will never push through it. But it always does for me when I lift my feet up off the floor. So I usually keep them down. But maybe you need more than that. Maybe for you it's extending the arms out for a seal pose. They call it upward dog or cobra if you've done any other style of yoga. I'm doing it in a modified way. There's a reason. If I bring my hands in any closer to my hips will come up off the floor. And that's my sign, and yours, of if you're reaching your full range. So again, here's me modified. Watch my hips, watch my spine if you can. And you see how my back doesn't change at all, but it's just my hips that are coming up now because I'm overextending. I've already hit my full range a while ago. It was right here. Actually, it feels pretty good to stay here today, so I'm going to stay. But a lot of times, here with the arms out, here with the elbows down, not that much of a difference. I mean, there's like a little bit. Today, I feel like it's making a difference, so I'll stay up. Right? But I would say the majority of the times that I do my practice, it's elbows down. It just, again, it depends. It depends on the day. It depends on what your body's telling you. And whenever I do a yoga practice, I come in with zero expectations as to how I'm going to do it today. I might have an idea of, I want to work my back, I want to work my hips, I want to work a certain area. But how I achieve that might not be in exactly the way I thought it was going to be. It's what keeps me on my toes, and it will keep you on your toes as well. Just constantly having something new that you're doing in your practice. And that's how you keep it fresh. A lot of times, people experience what they call yoga burnout, where they do a series like Ashtanga yoga. There's only one way to do Ashtanga yoga. There is one sequence that they do, or sequences that they do, and it's a scripted order, right? There's no change, there's no diversity to it. I notice those are the people who tend to get burnt out very quickly after a few years of doing the same practice over and over and over and over again. They'll start getting to this point where they'll think to themselves, is there anything more to this? And hopefully they don't quit, once they get to that point, because sometimes they do. And we don't want to quit our practice. We have to exercise every day. So you have to find something you can tolerate and do every day. It doesn't have to be the same thing over and over. It's just find something you can enjoy doing and do it. And if you're ready, we'll say it's time. Real slow, lay on your stomach. If you're in Sphinx, if you're in supported bridge, lift your hips up, slide block out, lay down. It's going to feel nice at some point to do a gentle forward bend like a child's pose, or laying on your back and cradling your legs. Maybe a down dog feels nice. That's up to you. We're at the end of our practice. And if you're ready for Shavasana, for corpse pose, you can do a few things. You can lay on your back if you'd like to. You can lay on your side, or even on your stomach is fine. You can rest your feet up the wall, like maybe you did in the beginning. Or you can always sit upright in meditation. Wherever you are most comfortable, go there and close your eyes. Nothing to see at this point, just more to feel and pay attention to. Focus on your breath. Breathe low in your belly, low in your diaphragm. Turn your senses and your awareness within And for these last minutes, I love doing this. Give your body a compare and contrast. How different do you feel right now as opposed to when you first started your practice today? No formal ending to our practice. You can stay in your Shavasana as long as you like, but that is officially all that I have for you. I want to thank you all for watching and sharing your practice with me. It has been my pleasure. Namaste.